Welcome back to ATL Day Ones. I'm Tenitra. That is Jarvis. And you guys are our number one fans. How do we know? Because you guys give us those 5-star reviews wherever you download your podcast. And you guys are also starting to download on platforms like Amazon Fire and Roku, where we are now. So we appreciate that. And you guys are also continuing to subscribe and get us closer and closer to 4,000 subscribers as Locked On Sports Atlanta Network. So that is all you guys. That's how we know you give us love because, hey, you show and prove each and every day, and we appreciate it. Of course, appreciate you guys coming back each and every day. Now, let's preface by saying this. There is certainly a great appreciation on this show for the Falcons' effort yesterday. And it's not about
Right.
moral victories. That's not the direction we're going to go in. But there were some really, really good takeaways. And so Jarvis made a great point that we want to talk about today, and that is the concept of progression. Because we all know this is essentially a bridge year, right? We're not expecting much in the way of a playoff run or anything like that. We're expecting that year 3 or year 4 in Arthur Smith's and Terry Fontenot's tenure is where we'll see that. But this can still be whether you're looking at the win-loss column or whether you're looking at sacks, whether you're looking at an improvement in the run game, progression. That's what we're looking at, and that's what we're looking for. So from week 1 to week 2, that's the sample size we have to work with right now, Jarvis. Did the Falcons
Hmm.
progress overall from then to now?
Oh, like, like let's just start on the defense. For them to get force three turnovers.
Yes.
Because we talked about how in week one, coming into week one against the New Orleans Saints, that Winston will turn the football over, right?
Hmm.
He's a 30-30 guy. I always make that joke about he's an ESPN 30-30 documentary guy, right? But that was something that we saw for him against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He went into
Hmm.
that. He threw the
Yes.
pick six and all that stuff, and he had three turnovers. So,
Hmm.
and coming into this game against the Los Angeles Rams, Matthew Stafford is a guy that's known to, hey, he'll give you the ball if
Right.
you force him to, right? And
Right.
for them to go out there and do that, you think
Hmm.
that that is something that you have to acknowledge as progress, right? Because we talked about how the offensive line for the Rams was a little shaky, right?
Hmm.
And the Falcons weren't necessarily able to take full advantage of that.
Right.
But by they only got only had one sack, so I think that that's something that you would look to see a little bit more from. But like when you have a team like the Falcons, specifically on defense, like that showed themselves last year, one of the worst teams in pretty much every major category last year.
Hmm.
For them to come out against the reigning Super Bowl champions, and force
Hmm.
three turnovers and put themselves in position to win the game after being down 28-3, ironically, I
Yeah.
think that you have to acknowledge that because that is definitely progress on my end.
Yeah. And that was the progression that I would say as well on the defensive side of the ball. That, yeah, you didn't have the sacks, although one sack then, 4 sacks last week. My 2.5 sacks average per game this season is
Uh-oh.
still on point. Just saying. But yeah,
Y'all need to
you may
listen
not
to
have
T
gotten
now.
that
That's
one
two
sack,
that's two
right?
times she been right.
But that one sack may not be what you got last week. But think about it. Think about what the sacks didn't necessarily do for you and what the turnovers necessarily did for you this
Right.
week. It essentially allowed you to claw back into the game and compete to actually win the game. So that's definitely where I think the progress is made. Now, the other thing is this. Thinking about progress from the offensive side, I would say the red zone productivity. When you think
Yeah.
about 4 trips to the red zone and for the Falcons to walk away with 2 touchdowns, that is mighty impressive for a team that has been dogged the last few years by their inability to punch it in. So that's also a place where I see productivity. Now, on the flip side, Jarvis, don't think there were too many instances of this, whether it's an individual or whether it's a group. But I was wondering as well if you saw anybody or any group, any position group that may have regressed this week. But before you share with our audience whether or not there's anybody or any group you felt progressed, tell them about something that always, or regress rather, tell them about something that never has a regression because it's always trending up, and that is Coffee AM.
Coffee AM King here. Have you ever been on a Monday where you're just feeling groggy and just down and just, man, I just don't feel like myself? Nope, that's never been me because guess what? I go to coffeeam.com/locked on and go to the website right now. I'm about to tell you why. Because my day gets started each and every day with a nice, fresh, small batch coffee roasted cup of coffee each and every day. And then I think that, when you think about going to my Kenya K cups, I got to start with them because that was my first love when it came to Coffee AM, because I was trying those bad boys out. It doesn't take long, and Coffee AM is the best small batch coffee roaster in the entire country, and I just need a pick me up because I start my day early. I get up early in the morning. I start getting my workout on and start doing my thing, and sometimes I just have to get myself going, and Coffee AM does exactly that for me, and because they are, like I mentioned, they are the best small batch coffee roaster in the entire country. Now, here's a little incentive for you to go to the website. Once you go to the website, coffeeam.com/locked on, go ahead and drop in that coupon code box locked on. You're going to get 15% off all coffee, teas, and gift sets. If you don't rock with the coffee, go ahead and try the teas out. If you don't rock with the tea, go ahead and give it a gift set. Make it a special gift for that person that you're trying to impress. I'm sure they're going to be impressed because you're going to help them get that day started off the right way each and every day. So go ahead and drop in that code locked on, coffeeam.com/locked on. You're going to get 15% off, and go ahead and pull up on the best small batch coffee roaster in the entire country.
That would be a good thing to do, especially if you had a rough night sleeping last night because you kept thinking about how the Falcons could have won that game. So we understand, we feel your pain. Coffee AM will probably help you along the way. Now, on the regression side, again, had some really positive takeaways, and we saw some progress. Did you see a player or did you see a position group that you felt may have taken a step back?
You know what? To be honest with you, I have to say, like, it's two parts, right? Because I think that the offensive line, with the penalties down in the red zone, that low red zone as you refer to it as, and I think that's something that kind of stuck in my craw a little bit because
Mhm.
when you get those penalties down there when you're close and you have the momentum and you're driving, that's something that kind of takes me back to last year, because we saw that
Yes.
a lot. An offensive
Mhm.
lineman gets a holding call, or they jump off sides, and then next thing you know, they end up to a third and long situation,
Yes.
and then next thing you know, you're kicking a field goal. But most of
Yeah.
the time, Koo makes the field goal, but
Right.
this particular time, he missed the field goal. So
Mhm.
it's just like a snowball effect. A lot of
Yep.
times, like, never get into those situations where you're saying to yourself 2 or 3 plays later,
Right.
hey, we got to stop the bleeding somehow. We need
Yeah.
a positive
Yeah.
thinking. So I think the offensive line have to make sure they stay out of those situations because
Mhm.
it's like a snowball effect. When you
Yeah.
when you playing against teams that are more talented than you are, you cannot afford to have these mental mistakes in these particular situations, specifically when you're
Mhm.
looking to punch it in for six.
Yeah.
Now, I also have to say, to kind of, because all these things, the quarterback and the offensive line kind of coincide with each other. So I kind of have to,
Mhm.
you can't talk about one without talking about the other. But I think Marcus Mariota is a guy that I feel like in non-play action rollout situations, he just looked off. And
Yeah.
I think that this is something that we've seen for the first two games, and I'm trying to find the reason in my head, T,
Mhm.
on a way how he can fix it, right?
Yeah.
But the more and more I think about it, the more and more I feel that this is just who Marcus Mariota is.
Yeah.
And I think that's why they have to be able to run the ball successfully in order
Mhm.
for him to be successful.
And that's one part of the conversation. What could make him successful and maybe keeping the ball out of his hands in lieu of or in favor of giving the ball to Cordero Patterson or Tyler Algier and letting them grind it out for you on first down, for example. Let them
Right,
get yards and put you in
right,
second and short or third and short situations where he seems to be a little bit more effective. Maybe,
right.
yeah. So I would say I would agree with you on that. But I will say this, and again, not to hit the panic button too soon at all, but here's how I wanted to frame this when I was thinking about the conversation that admittedly we have all heard the last 24 hours. In fact, midway through the game yesterday, Desmond Ritter was trending. Okay.
Yes, it was trending. Yes.
So exactly. So everybody's having that conversation in some way, shape, or form. And I just want to know from your perspective, and I have thoughts too, have we progressed, because that's our word for the day, to a legit
Hmm.
conversation about when will it be Desmond Ritter time?
I think so because, here's the thing. Coming into this season, I didn't want to see a rookie quarterback's ego or whatever confidence he had, and we know that Desmond Ridder had a lot of confidence coming into this season. I didn't want to see
Mm-hmm.
that get ruined, right? Because
Right.
if you came back with mostly, the same offensive line outside
Mm-hmm.
of Drew Dalman and Elijah Wilkinson,
Yeah.
and we didn't know what that offensive line would look like. Well,
Right.
2 games in,
Mm-hmm.
it's improved, and I
Yeah.
think that
Yeah.
they've shown that they can be, effective running the football pretty consistently, right? I think that's fair to say at this juncture early on in the season, and for the most part, they've kept Marcus Mariota pretty clean.
Mm-hmm.
So you have those two factors, right,
Yeah.
in each other. If you take those two things that I feel like that can help a quarterback out, regardless who's up
Mm-hmm.
on the center. I think
Yes.
if you add that to Desmond Ridder,
Mm-hmm.
I think that pretty much you take those two situations out of each other, you pretty much got the same guy. And I
Right.
feel like if you got the same guy in
Right.
those with those two factors,
Yes.
what are we talking about?
What?
Because
Exactly.
Marcus Mariota's been in the league for a long time, but he pretty
Right.
much is what he is. If
Yes.
Desmond Ridder is almost at the same level as Marcus Mariota right now in this moment,
Mm-hmm.
it's time to put the rookie in.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I had always thought that best case scenario for Mariota, that is, that it might take 5 or 6 games. But after what we've seen, and like you said, he is who he is physically, but he is also who he is mentally. Because what
Right.
I saw in those last 2 minutes, when you talk about the interception, and when you look at the fumble, and when you look at taking a sack, when you could just throw a Hail Mary up and hope like the dickens somebody catches that bad boy, it's like,
Especially when
okay,
that's the play call, T. That's what it is.
exactly. And
That's
right,
the
and that's not
play.
even a play call. Like you don't even have to call a Hail Mary. You're at the
Right.
50-yard line. We know what's
It's
going
what it
there.
is.
It's
Yeah.
it's seconds left on the clock. And so that's what I was thinking of as well, because it goes back to something that Arthur Smith said, and that is situational football. He
Right.
wanted his team to win the game by being able to play effectively and successfully in certain situations. Marcus Mariota did not play good, sound situational football, because when you look at the play for the interception, yeah, Jalen Ramsey goes up, and that's an incredible play on his part. But you also have Brian Edwards double covered. You've got Drake London all the way back at the end zone by himself. You have
Mm-hmm.
Cordero Patterson, who's actually springing you for an extra block. Your O line had actually held off the Rams D line, but Cordero
Right.
Patterson gave you just enough room to move out of the pocket or move the pocket and decide one of two things: let your legs get you the first down or buy you some time, and then you go out of bounds to stop the clock. Or OZ is right there as well. Try to get that ball to him without, of course, crossing the line,
Right.
the original line of scrimmage. But you had opportunities. Your
Right.
decision making after this long a period of time in the league is what is a bit troubling to me and for me. And so, yeah, I look at him and I think we have at least progressed to having the conversation about about, what about, what about Ritter? Is it Ritter time? So when we
Mm.
come back, it'll be for the culture, and we are going to tell you guys what time it is in another part of Georgia, and we are also going to tell you that it's birthday time for somebody or somebody's. We'll talk about it on the other side in For the Culture.